validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
All right, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this and that. Xander, about this in between. It looks a little bit better this time. It's not what I thought though. It's a little bit more contained though. It ain't sticking up looking like a dummy. Either way, okay. So, I'm gonna wait a couple minutes for Stephen to come in because I have some updates from yesterday's show because we did look at a few things yesterday, or we had some questions come up yesterday, and I said that I was gonna carry them over into this show. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that in just a minute. But here on Tonight, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we go live 7 nights a week, and we do not let the sun rise without going live. And that's why we ask you guys. Well, we don't always start on time though. So we go live every night of the week. We start around 11:30, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. But we're not consistently on at the exact same time as we're supposed to. So we ask you guys to like, subscribe, and match the notification buttons right here. Hit the match the reaction buttons right here and hit the notification buttons so that you can know either on TikTok or on YouTube or Twitch that we are live, so that you can be here at the top of the hour when we have updates. Like today, I got some updates from yesterday's show. Before we get into the updates, we covered. I actually had this interesting ongoing debate over the last couple of weeks, not the last couple of weeks, last couple of days of this week. And like so many people are so sensitive about that police officer that got pepper sprayed. And I'm sitting over here thinking, now our show today is supposed to be about the secrets of Germany, where you can go in and make and save hundreds of dollars a month and live and enjoy yourselves freely over in Germany. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Because on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that you can live in, potentially invest in. But before we get started, so many people I've been talking to is so sensitive about that police officer being pepper sprayed. And I'm sitting over here thinking, like, because the girl didn't get charged. She's on video pepper spraying the police officer, and she didn't get charged. And I'm like, bro, it's self-defense. And they're not paying attention to that. They're so hell bent on the fact that they don't like the fact that a cop got pepper sprayed. I'm glad a cop got pepper spray. I'm like, that's what the fuck they signed up for. First and foremost, they don't have pepper spray on their belt unless they get pepper sprayed at police academy. So, I mean, they don't have they get tasered and stun gunned and everything to that effect before they put that stuff on the utility belt when they go out into the street, which is one of the reasons why I get frustrated with them when they go directly to lethal force in situations where they could use something else. Because at the end of the day, they know that they have other things that they could utilize because it's been done to them, right? So when the police officer gets pepper sprayed in the situation where he kept saying on video he just wanted to talk to the woman and the woman didn't want to talk to him, and she pepper sprayed him to make him leave her alone. After everything was over, the police had found out she was involved in a robbery, and then they have caught her and arrested her and charged her with making an officer, charged her with $60,000 worth of theft. And I'm like, okay, so what you have right now is video footage from the establishment of stealing $60,000 worth of merchandise. That's felony theft. Then you have on video of a Mason, a police officer that was supposed to be investigating the rest of the establishment steps. That's a felony. What courtroom does anybody know of will drop felony battery on an officer for a felony theft charge in a plea deal? Like, this isn't a theft ring where she's not the ringleader kind of situation. This is just one person out there just shoplifting like crazy. Makes no sense. The only time that someone gets off on a really perceivably horrible thing is if they're looking for a bigger fish. So she didn't testify against somebody else. She caught the plea. She took a plea deal, and the plea deal was that they dismiss her battery on the officer, they suspend her sentence, put her on probation, make her pay restitution. If they got you on video screwing up an officer, easy guilty, go to trial. They're not going to offer you a plea deal unless the first half of that video was a police officer saying the things that he needed to say to justify the fact that she was supposed to be perceivably under arrest, which ultimately means that they had enough evidence on that video to justify the fact that she had performed the self-defense thing. And at the end of the day, believe it or not, while civilians don't like what happened, the woman didn't get charged for it. And she didn't get charged for it because it wasn't a crime that she had committed. And they don't like that fact, but that's usually how plea deals work. They throw out the charges that they can't prove in court. They throw out the charges that, like, for example, they don't want to embarrass a police officer for his lack of proper conduct in the courtroom, because they'll have to show the whole video in the courtroom in order for people to look at the video and say that he's wrong for, or she's wrong for what happened to him. And I'm sitting over here looking like, y'all not paying attention. They drop, because my experience in reading what happens when you do stuff to law enforcement officers is that you're supposed to have a mandatory minimum 6 months of jail when you do something to a police officer. So the way her sentence should have been was that she should have gotten a reduced thing on the felony theft. She should have had the felony battery on the officer. She should have did a mandatory 6 months in jail. The rest of her sentence should have been suspended for probation or parole. Still had the $11,000 restitution that she had to pay to the establishment. And that's kind of how it should have worked out. So for them to drop the jail time, drop the assault on the officer, and only do the theft and only do the restitution and not have her go to jail at all, just put her on probation, she had to have successfully had the kind of public defender to point out that there was enough evidence there for self-defense. And they're like, oh, everybody's telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, somebody show me how that's not the case. Because when George Zimmerman killed somebody, he got off on murder because it was perceived as self-defense. Whether or not it was legitimate or not doesn't change the fact that under the guidelines, especially with the new stand your ground laws, under the guidelines, that's kind of how it looks. Like there was enough evidence there, because how do you get away with doing something that you should be convicted of if there isn't a law that says that you can do that? So I wanted to marinate on that for a moment before we get started. Now, another thing I want to talk about real quick, and make sure that y'all like and subscribe. I appreciate that showing support on the show. Make sure that y'all like and subscribe. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is yesterday, FX Trader came in with some questions, and the questions like started with non-factual information. So yesterday he asked about Japan's yen and claiming that the United States bailed him out. The United States has not bailed out the Japanese currency. And just like I said yesterday, there was no information that I was aware of about a bailout of Japanese currency. Steven yesterday did some research during the show and sent me a video on it. I wasn't able to look at the video before I did the research, but after I did the research, I went and looked at the video and I was like, oh, so this guy kind of has the same information that I got, but I've got a little bit more information. So from what I've understood with the information that I got between Steven and the research that I did, is that Japan is missing some value in their currency because they're loaning money out at 1%. America has an investment opportunity at 3.5%. And the difference between the two is a 2.5% profit. And like I taught you guys on the show plenty of times before, that you borrow from a lender with a lower interest rate and invest the money with someone at a higher interest rate and keep the difference. That's what people are doing. They're borrowing the yen at 1%. They're selling the yen on the global market to turn it into U.S. currency, because you can't buy anything in the U.S. with yen. Then they are investing that currency in the U.S. market at the 3.5%, keeping the 2.5% difference after they've paid off the loan. Now, what this does every time they sell the yen on the market is it causes the value of the yen to diminish. And now the value of the yen is getting below that, is starting to become a huge problem. Now, from what I've heard, there was some discussions between the United States Treasury and Japan where they were talking about getting rid of some of the bonds that they have with the United States in order to rectify the situation. I do not have all of the details of exactly what bonds were called and what things were wrapped up, but apparently between the United States and Japan bought upward of $86 billion worth of their own money to bring back the value. Now, how America is involved in the situation is that America was supposed to match that. America allegedly was supposed to sell euros or go and buy yen with it. That's what was supposed to happen. Now, I don't see anywhere where the euros were sold, but what I do see is that there was about $500 million worth of United States dollars that went towards buying yen. As a result, between the actions of Japan and the actions of the United States, which happened around the 31st of July, so it wasn't that long ago, the United States actually gave a promotion on the global scale of the yen, and then people started buying back in to the yen again, but that's going to be short-lived because they're still offering a 1% loan in Japan, where America is giving you 3.5% back. Now they're talking about raising it to 1.25%, but that doesn't change the fact that the United States market still has it at 3.5%. So you would still get a 2.25% return on investment if you buy from Japan and then invest in America. So that because they kind of can't control what you do with the money once you borrow the money from them. And that's kind of where people are getting a misconception. So FX Trader came onto the show, misinformed, and explained to us that he thought that there was some kind of bailout with Japan. And I'm like, no, I've never heard of that, because that kind of would have been one of the first things that crosses my plate is a bailout. Because everything that I talk about is things that negatively impact your ability to make, save, and invest money. So if the United States economy was about to be in jeopardy because Japan's currency was under risk, that kind of would have been a show I would have covered. So I was like, yeah, I did tell y'all that I was going to cover it on the show today and give you guys some updates on that question. And I also did detailed research, put the top 10 currencies that you guys can watch into the membership on YouTube. So I did a lot of stuff, and I should be releasing right now in the membership on the YouTube channel. So I did a lot of research on that to make sure that you guys are up to date with what's going on. Michael says, wow, 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 aren't you looking dapper tonight? Hair combed, mustache trimmed, clean shirt. Hot. It is hot as fuck over here. My hair is always combed, but I got the wind blowing from right here, and sometimes it's kind of like, but this time it kind of set correctly. But yes, I did take the time to get rid of my 5 o'clock shadow, because at the end of the day, I mean, I have definitely been burning the candle at both ends, trying to make sure that I get a lot of things outside of the show taken care of while I try to stay on top of doing stuff for the show. And then I just thought about it, I think yesterday, day before yesterday, I was like, man, I need to shave some of this stuff. So I just kind of edged it up a little bit, got them Rocky Maivia sideburns back, and just, kind of, brought it back in, because, burnout happens. And I talk to you guys about burnout on the show on a regular basis. And even though I tell you guys it is a work in progress kind of situation, even I have not mastered the work-life balance, specifically because my personal life is work, and then I have work. So when I'm off from this and off from the work that I do, I still have work to do. So I find myself never officially having real time off, but I'm working on that. And while we work on that, I am working less than what I used to work, and I have more time to be in more places. So while I take my own advice and I practice what I preach, I want to make sure that I stay on top of the things that I do with the show. And then I want to make sure that you guys learn from some of my experiences when you guys start doing the things you do to make yourselves successful. So today, like I said before, now before we get started with today's show, another thing I wanted to talk about real quick, because we have on Sundays, we have questions and comments from the fans. Monday and Tuesday. On Monday, we talk about all the ways that politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Tuesdays, we talk about ways to make, save, and invest money. Today, we're different countries around the world to live in and potentially make money. Then we have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, where we tell you guys about socialization, negotiations, building your brands, self-improvement, self-development, raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages. And I do believe we throw some relationship topics and everything in there. That then we start talking to you guys about your 20 and 30-year plan. So we give you guys all the information on the business side of your life to help you guys figure things out to make more money. Then we talk to you guys about on your personal life, about how to change your decision-making skills so that you're not negatively impacting your money, which puts you in a better position to build your life up in a fashion where you start seeing results. Because there is a way, if you do it strategically, where 20% of effort would get 80% of results, instead of having 80% of effort getting 20% of results. And that's why I explain to you guys on a large platform on what to do and how to do it and where to do it at, in order for you guys to see better changes in the things that you're trying to do, and then aid you guys in the ability to look for new ways by finding new ways, and then showing you guys where to go to get more information about how to accomplish those things. Because once we have another way, and we can map out an alternative. And then if you did not have an outcome end result as to what you wanted to do, then truth be told, it is easier for you to start looking for a goal to work towards if somebody starts talking about things that might tickle your fancy. Because one of the other things that I also know about is in life, most of us actually want what other people have or have experienced, and we don't really care about things until after we find out how good things are. So if somebody tells you how awesome something is somewhere else, you might look into it and decide that's what I want. And then you start trying to map out how to get that, right? We don't look for a positive outcome in life. We find out about it from somebody else, and then we decide that we're going to aim for that positive outcome in life. And if we achieve it, then we have that goal. And for men, because this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, men are more effective in their lives when they have a purpose. So you have to find something to live for in order for you to get out of bed every day and strive for that. And that's something that women will never have to deal with, because at the end of the day, y'all got a lot of stuff to do. But we as men have like it's in our genetic coding that when we no longer have purpose, that's kind of it for us. We kind of just we either spiral into destruction where we're making a bunch of bad decisions, or we just kind of wither away and die. So, you know, longevity, we have to have a purpose in life. And by finding a purpose in life, you have to figure out what it is you want to see yourself doing in 10 or 20 years. And you can have short-term goals, like 6 months from now, a year, 2 years from now. But while you have your short-term goals, you need to really have those short-term goals phase into long-term goals so that you can see the progress occurring. Right. And as you see the progress occurring, then you're able to tell yourself, okay, I'm on the right track. Right. And you're able to recognize and celebrate those positive wins for when things are going the direction that you want it to go, while still being capable of putting in a lot more effort into achieving the things that you haven't achieved yet. So let's go ahead and dive into today's show real quick, because I know that you guys have heard it 1,000 times, because we talk about this just about every week. We used to talk about, you know, making it off of $1,500 a month. I'm like, I don't want to be going and really just struggling to get by. So we upped it. $3,000 a month is more than enough to live a great life in a place like Germany. Now, why do I use values like $3,000 a month? The reason why I use these values is because $36,000 a year is like $6,000 a year above the poverty level in the United States. The bottom 25% of income in the United States, the bottom 50% of income in the United States can still be able to relocate if they want to on a permanent basis, or take short-term vacations if they wanted to, if they planned it correctly, in other countries around the world that are far cheaper than the United States. You can go to really good places like Belarus, Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, and you know, you would be a multi-millionaire if you went there with $250,000. You know, but getting there, getting to that quantity of money is something that you got to work for, right? The majority of us live from paycheck to paycheck, and we usually live at about 90% of our income here in America. And we sometimes have a choice to not have to do that, but because we take our discretionary spending and put it towards luxuries in life that we can potentially benefit from, or things that we just want, and then they become needs because we don't want to do without those things. And that puts us in a problematic scenario, because now we have to continue to work for all of this extra money to pay for the things that we're used to having that we don't actually need, right? And that becomes our standard of living. And our standard of living can always be tough. We can go from 30,000 a year to 200,000 a year and still be struggling to go paycheck to paycheck, because ultimately we find ourselves in a scenario where the lifestyle we establish when we increase our income increases. And as a result, we have more to pay. So while we're still going to work every day, we got a way better job, way better income, living in a way better neighborhood, driving a way better car, wearing way better clothes, with a way better phone. We still are broke as fuck because we don't have an extra dollar to our name past our second paycheck. But I'm showing you guys that not only can you, if you did it correctly and reduce some of the unnecessary spending and start living off of less than 50% of your income, if you can get there, 30% of your income is even better. And you'll find that when you're trying to finance a home, that having your debt to income being less than 50% of your income, less than 41% of your income is the expectation to qualify for the home, even if after all of the interest rates and insurances and taxes and everything is applied, it's still at 51% of your income. The insurance company, not the insurance company, the lender of your property is still saying, hey, you're only supposed to have 49% of discretionary spending, not 5% of discretionary spending, right? But if you had 49% of discretionary spending, you would have the kind of money to spend where your standard of living in America is sustained. And you're capable of going to another country and enjoying a vacation or spending a year in another country and then still having your standard of living in America still exist the way you wanted it to be when you left. And what places would you go? Because I know that so many women say, well, I love to travel. You would love to travel, but the average woman that says that doesn't travel. Girls' night out on a Wednesday night is not traveling. Club on weekends is not traveling. You know, the majority of women that say that they love to travel don't go anywhere. They go to work, they stay at home, and if they go out of town inside of the same state, that's it. They don't even get a plane and go to the other side of the country. Very few of the women that say they love to travel actually touched all 50 states in the United States in their lifetime. So to start traveling in your life, the question would be, well, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go that I don't have to pay to get you there, right? Because you'll go wherever I take you. Where a man takes you, he ain't got to pay for it. But where would you go if you were paying for yourself? And that's part of the reason why we do this, is because I can talk about a different country every week that you can go to that is phenomenal. Cheaper than America in a lot of situations. Sometimes it's the same price, but a lot of times it's cheaper than America. You could go there, you could live there, you can enjoy yourself, you can experience a new culture, you can experience a new scenery. And now you've got goals for saving and investing, because we've talked to you guys on the show before, where you can set up a vacation fund, just like an emergency fund, where you're putting a certain quantity of money out of your paycheck aside every paycheck to cover when it is time for you to go out, go on that vacation. And whether you're going on a vacation once a season, or if you're going on vacation once every 2 or 3 years, however you map it out, you should have a destination whenever it's time for you to go, right? And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. So, I mean, I know you've seen a lot of the videos and the blogs, and they paint this picture of a super easy, affordable life that's going to be filled with beer gardens and trains that are always on time. But got to give you the honest truth that a lot of people usually forget to mention. That $3,000 can disappear so fast that it'll make your head spin. And ultimately, if you go out on a vacation and not bring enough money with you, you will find yourself stressed, broke, and wondering what went wrong. Michael says, broke bad decisions in your life. Call Xander and Wilbur for term loans. Our rates at 14% will save you money. Hey, that's how you handle peer-to-peer lending. That's how you handle peer-to-peer lending. You set up a platform, you get all their financial information, direct deposit bank accounts. You have them. You start off by lending them a small quantity of money just to see if they're going to keep their word. Then after a little bit, you can start sending them larger quantities of money, but at 14% return on investment, even if you got bad credit. You know what I mean? If they borrowed $10,000 from you, you just made $140. Or no, $1,400, right? $1,400. I'm sitting over here. 14%. Bro, you are not part of the show. Shh. So either way, it makes a lot of sense to, you know, loan at 14%. And then one of the better parts about that suggestion, Michael, is you could actually borrow money from your credit union or your local bank, the same quantity of money. You could borrow that money from your bank for like 5 or 8%, 8 or 9%, right? Because especially from a credit union. And if you borrowed it for like 8 or 9% from the credit union, and then you loaned it to somebody else for 14%, you could get that 5% return on investment as a profit, pay back your bank, and build yourself a line of credit with your bank that allows you to do peer-to-peer lending with other people's money. One of the things that the people were doing with Japan, because when they were borrowing the money from the Japanese bank and then putting it into the American stock market, they were borrowing money from somebody else that was cheaper and then loaning it to somebody else. Nah, I can't do that. Is that you can pawn a puppy to me? Nah, I can't do that. Nah, I can't do that. The dog just needs some attention because the dog just woke up and the dog has been asleep for the last 3 hours. Got something to eat, took a good nap. Now it wants me to give him some attention. And now I got to work right now. I give you some attention in like 4 hours. So imagine that your budget is like 1,400 euros for the rent. Your first month actually cost you 4,800 euros. That's not a scam. That's just Germany. And this actually happens in Korea, South Korea, is that the rent might be pretty cheap after you get in there. But especially as an expat, especially as a short-term tourist that might be renting something for 6 months, they have significantly higher security deposits. I appreciate the 5 jewels, Michael. Significantly higher security deposit. That actually is not what we talk about when we talk about traveling. When we talk about traveling, we look at what the natives pay on a month-to-month basis. And then we assume, okay, well, the natives can make it off of $800 a month. So if I bring $1,000, I'm good. Well, the natives were born there. They lived there with their parents. Just like here in America, when they went to get established, mommy and daddy put down the down payments for them. Now they've got the place. Yeah, they might be paying $500 a month for this unit, but they're paying $500 a month on this unit after somebody paid for the down payments and security deposits. As a foreigner, you are a higher risk tenant than a native because you can hop a plane and leave before they realize you're not there, and any unpaid rent that you would owe them, it's going to be harder for them to collect. So security deposit is literally a security deposit. They have you giving them a significant quantity of money up front before you move into the property to cover the quantity of time that you could potentially disappear on that property and not pay them what you owe them for the rent. This happens in a lot of places. So if you pick the wrong city or use the wrong budget and don't have the right legal and financial plans, your dream of living in Europe will turn into a financial nightmare. Ultimately, what happens just about any country around the world that you will go to, because if you under project your expenses based on the probability of living like a native, when America is supposed to be one of the most developed countries around the world, from what I see, like China's kind of got its beat in some things. Now, and just about every country in the world calls the luxurious lifestyle of Americans Western style in their culture, which costs more than the native style. So when you think about, oh, well, you know, I can go to Japan and I could probably live in Japan for like $800 a month. It's true. You could if you live like them. But if you want to live like us over there, it might be $2,500 a month. So you have to think about what luxuries, what American style luxuries are you willing to forfeit in price? And if you're not willing to give up certain things like a fluffy bed to sleep on with its own blankets, you might be buying a unit or renting a unit that costs way more than what you originally budgeted. This is one of the things that people do not pay attention to. So you'll find that if you don't budget correctly, that you're gonna end up with no savings and a one-way ticket home that you cannot afford, especially if you didn't buy round trip tickets when you flew out there. But it really doesn't have to be that way. So in tonight's show, I'm going to be giving you guys an ultimate financial blueprint to not just survive, but to actually thrive in Germany on a $3,000 remote income. Now, remember, all of the financial opportunities that I talked to you guys about, because when I first started doing the show, I was telling you guys that there were other jobs in other places here in America, brick and mortar jobs, where if you had a degree, if you had a reasonable skill set, you could just change jobs by, revamping your resume, applying for the job where your skill set matches the job description, and you could potentially go work somewhere else and make you a decent quantity of money. That's where we started at like 3 years ago. But then I realized, bump that, you could just work for yourself, work from your computer. Then you can take your job anywhere around the world. You don't have to wait until you retire to start traveling. You can, if you're renting an apartment right now, let me tell you something. You can get you a 12-month rental agreement with a storage facility. Move all of your stuff out of your apartment at the end of your lease and put it into that storage facility. Pay them, and I wouldn't just pay them 12 months. I'd pay them like 16 or 18 months, because I've come to find out that there are certain times out of the year where a facility will raise the rent on the storage facilities, and they will mail you or email you a notice that the cost has gone up, and you don't know about it because you advance paid when the cost was lower, and they'll take it out of your outstanding balance, and instead of like at the rate that you paid for it when it was lower, and then you end up with less months. So you can debate it when you get back if they haven't sold off all of your stuff, but if you are gone when the rates change, and instead of you having 12 months, you end up with 9, you come back 3 months after they got rid of your stuff, they can't even fix the problem because they took action while you weren't around. And when they finished taking action, you showed up. So I would pay for like 18 months worth of space for the 12 months that I'm gone, just to make sure that there's enough there in case they raise it like $10 or $15 a month over the course of the 12 months that you're not there. And then when you get back and you take everything out of the unit, they just got to refund you the difference of what wasn't used. But if you put all your stuff in storage, if you're renting, this is easier to do than if you own. If you're renting, you put all your stuff in storage, and now your prepaid storage facility that's holding all of your assets is the only expense that was already prepaid. You can go live in another country for 12 months and work from the computer, direct deposit to wherever you're going. And especially if you have an international bank account like Chase, or one of those other branches that's in just about every country around the world, where you could just go to the local branch and pull money out and do what you got to do. You just have to get you a location that is within traveling distance of the Chase Bank, and you can just pull money straight out of your bank account. You can travel to a different country, get your direct deposit into your bank account, and just live, right? And that's something that not a lot of people think about. But if you're living in another country for 12 months, you have to be able to have you a pretty decent budget. However, some countries will give you a digital nomad visa for $3,000 a month income. So, and if you're making a $4,000 or $5,000 a month income, that's even better, because places like Japan and Seoul might be expecting you to make like a $5,500 a month income. But if you work in California and you're making a $250,000 a year income, where Japan and China and Seoul would be expecting a $72,000, $75,000 a year income, you're perfectly qualified to get that digital nomad visa. So other countries where it's cheaper, like the Philippines, it's like $2,000 a month is all of the income that you need. And a digital nomad visa is that you work from somewhere that is not in the country that you're in. That's what a digital nomad visa is. And if $2,000 a month in the Philippines to get you a visa, that means that all you need is a $24,000 a year income to show them, and they'll give you that extended stay visa kind of thing. So that's why we started setting a par at like $3,000 a month, because it's actually possible. Because a lot of more of us rent than we own, right? There's more of us that rent than those of us that own. And since that's the case, for those of you that love to travel, this will be the most effective way to do it. And that's going to be another reason why you would do like 18 months, because if you're gone for 12 months and you come back, you don't have an apartment anymore. You're going to get you a new apartment, which might take you a little bit of time. So you want to have a month or two extra of space to get that apartment and then cash in and take all the stuff and move into the new place, right? This is the kind of transitions that we talked about when we said the early retirement thing, the plan your vacation in between jobs kind of thing. This stuff is very effective for you. So this isn't about being cheap. And that's one of the things that I want you guys to understand. It's not about cheap, but I think at a level where if your ass was broke, you can still do this, right? But it's mainly about being smart. So we're going to show you guys the specific mid-cost cities to focus on where your money goes way further without sacrificing the quality of life that you're supposed to be in. So we're going to be giving you the exact line-by-line budgets that can leave you with a close to 1,000 euro in savings every single month kind of budget. And we're going to be pulling back yet another curtain on the unorthodox digital investment strategies that you can use to build real sustainable wealth while living abroad. Michael says today that amount of stuff people own is it is cheaper to sell everything than put it in storage. Average unit is around $140 a month. I disagree. I have a $2,000 Samsung refrigerator. I put it into storage for $50 a month for 2 years. The amount of money that I paid to hold on to that refrigerator was less than it would cost to replace that refrigerator. He said, I want my unit go. That's what I'm trying to say, Steven. I have well over $20,000 of stuff in there. Look, I'm not letting my unit go neither. The fact is that when you start taking, because when I said that everything, I'm not talking about, one or two items. I'm talking about you got couches, recliners, entertainment systems, clothes, because you're not going to fly to another country with all your clothes. You're only really going to bring like maybe 1 or 2 bags as men. I know women will bring like 50 bags, but men are only bring like 1, maybe 2 bags, 1 carry-on and 1 check-in. And that's it. That's all they're going to bring. To be gone for a year. Everything else is they're going to buy it while they're out there, right? So the rest of their wardrobe, such as it is, would be in that storage unit. Probably $50,000-$60,000 worth of stuff to replace at the current market value. All of their furniture, you're looking at couches costing $1,000 these days, beds costing $1,000 these days. If you got more than 1 bed, that's almost $5,000 worth of stuff, plus your clothes. That's not the car. If you have a car and you're going to put your car in storage, because like U-Haul, certain U-Haul facilities have parking spaces where you can store your car on the property with your unit. They include it into your bill, right? You can't replace your car for less than it would cost to pay somebody to hold on to your car for 12 months, and then you just come back and get it, right? So if you have nothing, Michael, then you can sell everything that you have, and it saves you a little bit of money on storage. But it is not cheaper to sell all of your assets at a depreciated value so that you cannot spend the $140 a month. Because think about it, if you're spending $140 a month for 10 months, that's $1,400. Your entire 4-bedroom house is not going to be replaced for $1,400. Everything in your garage is not going to be replaced for $1,400 if you were going to be gone for 5 or 10 years. So this is opportunity cost, Michael. If the amount of money it costs to store it costs more than the price to replace it, then you replace it. If the cost to store it costs 10% of the depreciated price to sell it, you store it. You said love storage units that come up for auction. Well, I keep telling you guys go and buy storage facilities and then rent out the units, because that's easy money. You don't have to do anything. You can pay 1 or 2 people to monitor the property and clean them out whenever the unit goes vacant, so that you can lease them out to somebody else. And it's one of those investment opportunities that has the least amount of work, the least amount of overhead, and it gives you the ability to step away from that really, really quickly. But I'm paying my far into the future. Me too. When I had the storage unit, I was paying that bad boy 2, 3, 6 months in advance. It was never a month-to-month basis with me. I was paying them so far in advance. Then I had their phone number. I could call them overnight on a weekend, tell them charge this number of months, and then send me an invoice. They had my credit card on file. They would just charge it to the card. They would send me an invoice, and I would just know that I'm covered until such and such date. Michael says assets make you money. That refrigerator, those clothes, etc., are liabilities. No, they're not, Michael. Okay, so I think you have to understand what a liability is. Because that refrigerator is going to work for me right now. That refrigerator, I've got 2 refrigerators in my house right now. Full of groceries. That's not a liability. A liability is something that you are not benefiting from. If I didn't have this particular size refrigerator, I would not have this much food in my house, which means that the food will either be spoiling or I'd be spending more money on revolving out food. So it's actually an asset. Your clothes, you can try to call clothes a liability, but you cannot walk outside without the clothes on. You have to have some kind of clothes. Now, name brand clothes would be perceived as a liability, because the luxury of buying a name brand outfit versus actually buying an outfit so that you can have clothes to wear when you leave the house is 2 different things. It is perceivably an asset that you have some clothes that you can wear to go out in the public with, because you can't go outside naked, Michael. So I think you misunderstand the concept of liabilities. But I do know that the fundamental idea of a liability is that if it doesn't turn you a profit, it's a liability. So the storage unit would be a liability, because you're paying a debt, but it's paying a debt to serve a purpose. Instead of selling all of your stuff unnecessarily at a deflated price, a depreciated price, and then you would have to rebuy all of that stuff back. Steve said, I'm head to toe in liabilities right now in that care. Because I thought that refrigerator was in a unit. I said that at one point in time, I had a refrigerator in a storage unit for 2 years. And I use that as an example because I did have the refrigerator in storage for 2 years, from 2024 to 2026, and now it's sitting right over there. And it is at this time, yeah, exactly. That's the point. And the refrigerator wasn't the only thing in that storage unit for $50 a month. I had a $1,000 washer and a $1,000 dryer sitting next to that refrigerator. So that storage unit had $4,000 worth of appliances in it, plus a bunch of clothes in it for $50 a month. So again, 10 months would have been $500. 20 months would have been $1,000. 24 months would have been like $1,200, where well over $4,000 worth of appliances plus clothes, where remember, I had like $500 suits all over the place that were in a storage unit, where the money that it would have cost to replace just the washing machine would have cost more than the 2 years that the stuff was in storage. So when you think about cost efficiency, when you think about opportunity cost, you're thinking about how much you could have spent versus how much you will spend. And it makes more sense to not sell brand new appliances. These are brand new appliances. These weren't like outdated stuff. These appliances were bought in 2023. Well, actually, no, I think they were bought in 2022, but they're still brand new, reasonably brand new appliances. And they weren't used for very long. They were in storage in 2024. So but the problem that you have with your logic, Michael, is that you're talking about selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of assets so that you can spend tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace it. That $2,000 refrigerator would now cost $2,500. The $1,000 washing machine would now cost $1,500. So the exact same items, because of inflation, especially with the new tariffs that came out in 2025 and 2026, these exact same appliances are negatively impacted by the tariffs. These exact same appliances would cost significantly more than what they were originally paid for when they were first bought, which means that you're still going to be hauling stuff, Michael, because if you buy something from the store, you have to ship it to your house or go get it if you're picking it up from IKEA or something like that. You're going to have to pay extra costs for them to deliver it and install it. So you're not saving any money by selling all of your assets and then replacing it at an inflated cost with tariffs. That's not a smart move at all. The smart move is if you already own it and you're putting enough stuff into the storage unit where the stuff that you're holding on to is more valuable or would cost more to replace than the amount of money it would cost to store it for the period of time that you're going away. That's why that recommendation came out, because you're going to Germany for 12 months. Even if you were spending $250 a month for a sizable unit, you're still looking at a less than 1% of the cost of all of the items in the unit. He says washing machines and dryers are cheap. No, they're not, Michael. A used one would be cheap, but as I said before, I had brand new appliances. I had brand new appliances, fresh out the bubble wrap. Still had a 5-year warranty attached to them. Brand new appliances. And they're still inside of the warranty, ironically. No, back in the 1950s, they were $300. If you were to Google a 28 cubic inch Samsung refrigerator, you would see that they're nowhere near $300. The taxes on those things would be $300. All right. And if you look at the brand new LG washer and dryers, the side loaders, they're also well over $1,000 a piece. So when you start looking at the cost to replace exactly what you had, it's going to cost you more money to replace it than what it would be to store it. So back to what I was saying, logically, if the cost to replace it costs more than the cost to store it, you store your stuff. Now, if you don't have nothing, if all you got is clothes in your back, you can sell everything at the Goodwill and you can take everything else with you and fly out to another country and start anew. Yes. If you're going to another country for a permanent move, then yes. But if you're only going there for a short period of time, you don't want to sell everything else. I don't understand your logic, Michael. You're still coming from an archaic level where you're asking me why buy new. Why not buy new? So here's a because you're straying away from, because we're talking about Germany, not storage units. But let me help you understand this, Michael. When appliances get old, they need to be replaced. And usually when they get replaced, people buy a new appliance. Very rarely, when they cannot afford to buy a new appliance, do people tend to choose to go and replace something that no longer works with a used appliance. So That's why they sell new appliances. Home Depot, Walmart, Temu, everywhere you can order something to be shipped in. That's why you buy new, Michael, so that you can have an appliance that can last you for 20 years. Also, when you think about the fact that the used appliances that are out there right now are more top loaders, not side loaders, and clothes with buttons on them typically get caught up in the top loader. And if you want a side loader, you're more often than not going to have to buy a newer appliance. But see that, oh Lord, Michael, he said, yeah, well, if you're only going for a short time, I agree with you. But that's where this conversation started. If you're renting and you're going to spend a year in another country, that you can take your stuff and put it in storage. You can pay for 18 months, go for 12 months. You come back, you got 2 months to find you a place to stay. You can pull your stuff out of storage, and whatever you didn't spend on your storage facility, they can reimburse you. And by paying for 18 months instead of 12 months, even if they raised the price while you were gone, it would cover the inflated costs while you're not there. So you would at least get 14 months for to stay, which would give you the capabilities to go to another country for 12 months and then come back and all of your stuff is preserved. Then you come in and you try to devalue that by trying to make it seem like it's cheaper to sell all of your stuff. If you're leaving and coming back, you don't sell all of your stuff. If you're leaving and never coming back, then you sell all of your stuff. It's a waste of money to lease a storage facility in America when you have no intention of going back to America. But if you're only going to, so if we're talking about a digital nomad extended visa, usually extended visas are going to be like 6 months or 12-month stay. And if you're doing a 6-month or 12-month stay in another country, it makes more sense to put your belongings into a storage unit and then leave, instead of selling all your stuff and then having to replace it all when you get back. You're still wrong, Michael. A year, you store it. 5 years, you sell it. 10 years, you sell it. But 12 months, you store it, and then you come back and get it. Because, again, take for example, if you've got a house, you own a house, you're going to be gone for 12 months. You're not going to sell the house because you're not going to be here. And if you had a house full of furniture, you're not going to sell the house with all the furniture in it because you're not going to be here for 12 months. Especially if you got a homestead tax credit, you don't even have to pay taxes on the house. You just have to do your taxes at the end of the year. You're not going to sell all of your stuff just because you're going for 12 months. If you're doing a permanent move, then you sell all of your stuff. You say you're going to keep IKEA, sell it. If you've got 20, 30, 40 years worth of stuff, do not listen to Michael. You hold on to your stuff, you put it in the storage, and then after you finish putting it into storage, you go do what you got to do in another country. Then when you come back, that is when you pick up the stuff that you already own. Because the most realistic advice that anybody can give anybody else is do not spend money that you don't need to spend on buying things that you already own that you don't have to finance. Now, you cannot show me the logic behind it because we just crunching the numbers. We just crunched the numbers that you ultimately would be paying less than 10% of the value of all of the stuff in the storage unit for 12 months worth of holding the items. So since it is a value to you, because if you're going to sell everything, you're going to replace it. And if you're looking at $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of stuff in a storage unit, and you're only spending $2,000 to hold it into a storage unit, or $2,500 to hold it in a storage unit for a year, at the end of the day, the cost of storing it is the cost of doing business, and it's cheaper to store it than it is to replace it. Because you're not even going to turn a profit. You're not even going to turn a profit off of selling all of your stuff. That's going to be a bad business deal because you're going to sell all of your stuff at a depreciated value, but you're still going to buy your stuff new. He said, I have no problem with people. I know you're giving people bad advice, trying to convince them to waste their money. You're giving them horrible advice. You're telling them to sell stuff that they already own instead of putting it in the storage since they're only going to be for a short period of time. Between you and FX Trader be providing inaccurate information, man, I tell you what. I got to stop y'all from giving people bad advice. Then, like I said before you jumped in, if you owned a car, not finance a car, if you owned a car, especially if you own the car, you're on a month-to-month lease, you can terminate your lease after your registration expires. You can put your car into storage. Your registration, special shout out to OG Kicks. Since your registration expired, you don't have to renew your registration until after you get back into the States. Because your vehicle isn't registered, you no longer need insurance on it. A smart move is if your car is going to be sitting still for 6 months, is to drop the insurance policy. That is what you can terminate so that you're not wasting money on insurance policy for a vehicle that you're not using. You just let the registration lapse, drop the insurance policy, fly to another country, save the $2,000-3,000 that you would have been paying on your insurance, and then get that policy back when you come back from the States. That would be a good business decision. But selling all your stuff, that's a bad call. And then if you have stuff that's not valuable and you can, or if it is valuable and you don't want it anymore, you can sell your stuff and not leave the country. But if everything that you have, you want everything you have, you're going to use, it makes no sense to sell all of your stuff just for you to take a 6-month or 12-month trip when the cost of storing it is less than 10% of the value of the stuff that you have. And you're not going to make the money off the stuff that you're selling as the cost of the storage. So you can't value that in any dynamic. All right, let's to it, because I got a few things I want to cover today before we wrap things up in the next hour, because I do have a short contract that I got to go and take care of. So let's get into this. First things first, we're going to be talking about the numbers themselves. And I know Michael don't like the numbers, but I got to talk about these numbers. 3,000 United States dollars is what we're going to be dealing with. In the world of international finance, a dollar is not a dollar. So you have to internalize that you don't actually have $3,000. You have the equivalent in euros in this particular situation, minus fees. And as of mid 2026, 3,000 euros converts to about, well, 2,000 US dollars converts to about $2,700 in euros. Okay, so you're not going to actually have $3,000. You're going to have about 2,700. If you're trying to do it with 2,700 euro, with 3,000 euros, you would probably be bringing $3,500 with you to make sure that you had your 3,000 euros, right? Either way it goes, we're going to make this work. Remember, the rate change is going to happen every day. The exchange rate is going to change every single day, so it's not going to be the exact same. But for the sake of this discussion, this is what we're going to be working with. When you move the money with that particular service, you using things like Wise or Revolt, that's going to be your best friend. Your bank back home will probably hit you with huge fees and terrible exchange rates. So losing 3 to 5% on every transfer is going to be the first leak in your financial boat if you're transferring money. Because, like I said, if you don't have a bank that has a branch in that country, you're going to be dealing with a lot more inconveniences than what you would be dealing with if you did, right? So you want to plug that gap immediately. If you're not going to have a branch in that country, you're going to have to bring you some cash with you, and that's when people start trying to fly with cash or a money order. But even with a money order, you still have to pay a fee in certain places to check. So right off the bat, you actually only have like 2,700 euros. And the big question is that going to be enough in a place like Germany for a single guy? Answer is going to be definitely yes, definitely for a single guy. So this isn't like, well, you know, you're married with some kids and you want to bring the family. If you're trying to bring the family, you'd have to bring triple, right? And why do I say triple? Well, because if one person can function off of $2,700, two people, a married couple, would be 150%. So you would likely have probably 1,500 to 1,800 extra dollars that you'd have to bring. But if you're bringing kids and kids break stuff, you're going to have to bring extra money for all of the bad things the kids might actually end up doing. But that yes is also going to come with an asterisk. It's only enough if you follow some specific discipline strategies. Steven says, take this Visa card. I don't have your lesser currency, sir. will be what I say. But that only works if um they have credit cards in that particular store. And then if you go and look at your credit cards, I'm glad you said that, Stephen. If you go and look at your credit cards have terms and conditions for usage. I want you to look at the section that talks about a different interest rate for international transactions. So while, yeah, you could essentially charge it to the card, they may charge you 35% to charge it to the card instead of the 22% that you're paying for to use it in America. They may charge you an additional 7% on top of the 22% to make it 35% because you're charging a card in another country. Now, if you've got an international card that's got international perks where you're getting points for charging a card in different countries, then yeah, charge that bitch up. But if you've got a local, regular, back and forth Visa, and they're charging you pretty high interest rates already, and they say that international transactions is going to cost more, just like cash advances and payday loans. You know, you can do a cash advance on your credit card. That's what some real estate investors do, is they have like $50,000 and $75,000 credit cards, $100,000, $250,000 credit cards, and they get a cash advance on that credit card. Typically, they have to like go to a bank or something like that to get the money off the card, but they withdraw money off of the card for cash, and that's a cash advance, and they got to pay that premium. But when they do a deal, a real estate deal, they usually get more money than what they spent. So when they pay the bank back, it's the cost of doing business. But if you show up winging it to any place, any country, I promise you, you're going to fail, especially if you're not bringing enough money to get out there and get the job done. Stephen says, when I grow up, I want to own a credit card company. Yes, I want to own a bank, because that's the credit card company. I wanted to start my own bank, and I have yet to find the most ridiculous name that you can call a bank. I was thinking Dark Money Express. Simply because the name Dark Money is a political testy name. They already have black coin out there because it's black, so you know. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort. You have to, in order for you to be FDIC certified, you got to be backed by a lot of money. So you know, I'd have to make a lot of money and then invest it in a bank. But you can actually, he says, Xander and Dogs, Dark Money, XDD, XDD Holdings. But what was I saying? Yeah, you could start yourself your own bank by starting your own banking practices. First and foremost, contracting when you're doing peer-to-peer lending, loaning money out to people, and building a trust system where people pay you back with interest. And as you build on that, you will end up having enough individuals that's paying you back with interest to where you can actually do exactly that. Create a bank and then create a bank through lending. But it requires you to have accessible to you in a significant quantity of money to get to the bank level, something close to $5 million. And then you can do what you want to do with creating your own bank. Now, what you could do if you didn't want to create your own bank, if you just wanted to be a primary shareholder of a bank, is you go find you one of those blue chip banks that's been around for a while, and you try to invest several $1 million into that bank. Then you will be a very valuable person when you walk in there. Everybody would be like worshiping the ground that you walk on. So let's get straight to this Germany situation, because I want to cover as much stuff as I can in the next hour. The German government has official minimums for visa purposes. So for student visas, they might require you to prove that you have about 992 euros a month. Not that much. But we got to be blunt about this. The number is a bureaucratic benchmark, not a realistic budget. So if you have $1,000 a month income, you can get the visa, but that doesn't mean you can survive on it, right? It's going to be a very miserable existence. You'd be in a tiny room miles away from the city center eating nothing but pasta with zero social life. That's not thriving, okay? That's surviving on life support. The average living cost per one person, including rent, is already nearly $1,000, right? The living cost, not the rent, just the living cost. So tonight's show is not going to be about that. This is going to be the blueprint for building a life. So we're going to start talking about savings, which is going to be a significant amount every month, investing it intelligently, and then setting yourself up for long-term financial freedom, all while enjoying one of the best countries in the world. It's about leveraging a solid remote income in a place where you can control your cost of living. So again, this isn't going to be one of those get-rich-quick situations. It's about building a smart reality. So forget living like a king on a shoestring. It's not going to work. Instead, you want to picture this. You want to live comfortably, have an interesting life while your net worth goes up month after month. That's supposed to be the goal. So first step, the one that determines 80% of your success, is going to be where you decide to live. Now, if you don't remember anything else from tonight's show, you want to remember this. Your choice of city isn't just a lifestyle preference. It's the single most important financial decision that you can make. It's the foundation of the entire strategy. So when you're getting it, you're going to be on the path to saving nearly $1,000 a month. If you don't get it right, you'll be lucky to save anything at all, and you might find yourself in a scenario where you don't have enough to get by. So to make this simple, we broke down German's cities into 3 zones based on the 2,700 euro a month net cost that we were talking about. Red zones are going to be financial traps. These are going to be cities that are financially quicksand on this type of budget. So we're talking about places like Munich, and to a lesser extent, central Frankfurt, Stuttgart, and Hamburg. These are amazing cities, economic powerhouses with an incredible quality of life. They are also financially black holes for someone on a mid-level remote income. So let's run these numbers for Munchen. 1-bedroom apartments are easily somewhere between 1,400 and 1,600 euros, and $1,200 further out. And if we're optimistic and say that we find something that's around $1,200 and your income is $2,700, after rent, you're left with like $1,500. Now, add another cost like utilities, internet, and a mandatory TV tax will be about $250 to $300. Health insurance, which will get to, let's say, $350. Your monthly transportation, $49. Groceries, even being frugal, will be around $300. And if you add all of that up, that's going to be about 2,199 euros, where you're left with about 500 euros for everything else. Phone, gym, clothes, beer, hanging out with friends, weekend trips, saving, investing, all of it. So it's going to be gone in an instant. Your savings potential is completely crushed. Living in the red zone cities on this particular budget is a high stress, low reward game. So you probably shouldn't do it. Your ego isn't worth the financial future. Steven says, I need castle room for that price. Again, okay, so if you're looking for castle room for $2,700 a month, you're going to be in like Nagoya or Osaka, Japan. You're going to be in the Philippines, outside of Cebu City. You're probably going to be in Vietnam, somewhere in Southeast Asia where the middle class is $2,000 a month. That's the only way you're going to see like castle prices. When you start getting to like Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark, you know, other places like that, you're looking at the garage outside of the castle for that price. We have covered some countries that do not have that budget as a favorable budget to live. You'd have to double it from 3,000 to 6,000. Now, let's look at the sweet spot, the mid-costing cities. This is going to be where our strategy starts to shine. These cities offer incredible balance of affordability, things to do, and a great social scene. So we're going to be talking about a place like Cologne, the outer district of Berlin, and parts of Dusseldorf. Sounds like Hogwarts. They're large, international, and full of life, but the cost of living, especially housing, is going to be much lower than a red zone. So Cologne or the outer parts of Berlin, you can find a decent one-bedroom apartment for about $900 to $1,200 a month, and a huge step from Munchen's price. And if we quickly ran that budget with a $900 a month rent, your baseline significantly drops. Suddenly you have a lot more breathing room and you have options. You can afford to go out, you can afford to travel, most importantly, you can afford to save. And you can potentially invest. This is going to be a completely different world where you get the big city energy, the international community, and the nightlife without paying that punishing price. Spending all your money on a tiny apartment in a prestigious city just to be too broke to go out is going to be a classic expat trap. You do not want to, and I've told family and friends this before, you do not want to go to another country on a vacation just to stay in a hotel. You could have did that back home. You want to go to another country to live, right? So the sweet spot cities let you have the life and have the ability to build the future. There's a high margin zone, which is like the secret weapon cities. Those of you that are laser focused on maximizing your savings and hitting financial freedom faster, you guys might want that high margin zone. These are going to be cities expats often overlook. It's going to be a place that's on the tour guide, but they are absolute smartest financial moves that you can make in Germany. And if you're looking for places that are outside of the tourist traps, whenever you go to any other country around the world, you'll find that they are just as beautiful, just as eventful, and far cheaper than the known expat areas. Like you want to go to Tokyo because you've seen Tokyo Drift. But if you go to the outskirts of Tokyo, it's a whole lot cheaper. Name me a city that's not near Tokyo. Most people don't know. You'll have to Google it and then tell me. And that's one of the reasons why Tokyo is going to be more expensive than some of the other lesser known areas. So let's talk about Leipzig and Dresden. These cities in Eastern Germany are going to be young, creative, and buzzing with energy with growing art and tech scenes. But their cost of living is still shockingly low compared to the West. In this area, you're going to have a nice one-bedroom apartment that's going to be around $550 to $800 a month. And if we're taking that average, something around $650 for the rent. If your income is $2,700, you already have the total essential expense that drops down to about $1,770, which leaves you with a surprising surplus of about 900 euros a month every single month. Nearly $1,000 that you can pour directly into your investments. This is going to be how you build serious wealth. Living in Leipzig or Dresden for a few years. Now, if you were living there for a few years, I might say sell all of your stuff before you move back to before you move out. But if you were doing this while investing, you'd be able to put 5 or 10 years ahead of someone else that would be struggling in Munchen. If both of you guys went to Germany to invest and build up a storefront of information, you would probably be 5 or 10 years ahead of them within 2 or 3 years. Sure, there's going to be some trade-offs, and the cost of convenience also means that the lack of cost is going to be inconvenient. So these cities are going to be more international, but they aren't the expat bubbles that Berlin is. So you're going to need to put more effort into learning the German language, because not a lot of people get a hoot to learn about it. That's going to be your first concern. But as a remote worker, who really cares? I mean, you bring your job with you, so you don't really have to talk to your boss. You are your boss. You're going to get the first world European quality of life, which is safety, cultural, healthcare, at a fraction of the cost. You can live an incredible, comfortable life, eat out, travel, and still have an amazing percentage of your income. So for the financially savvy individuals, these cities are going to be a gold mine. So it's going to be the ultimate arbitrage that you're going to be playing on in order for you guys to make the extra money that you're trying to make for this particular type of adventure. Earning strong currency while living in a low cost, high quality place. And when we say earning a strong currency, in recent times, the United States has been identified as the #1 currency in trade. So if you're drawing back revenue from the #1 currency in trade, every other currency is a percentage of that currency, which ultimately means that if you're living in that culture, the lifestyle is going to be a percentage of the culture of the United States dollar, which means that you can make substantial gains in the United States market, and then living in another country, be able to subsidize your standard of living for far cheaper. So if you avoid the red zones, target the sweet spot for a balanced life, and if you're seriously considering a high margin zone, your main goal would be to build wealth fast. So you're going to address these things to determine your financial destiny, but you have to choose wisely. Again, you pay for convenience. Now, after you pick your cities, wisely aiming for something like a high margin situation, let's make this plan really cook. We need a precise line-by-line budget for Leipzig. Now, this is operating system for your financial life in Germany. Our goal is going to be to keep the expenses around 1,800 euros, leaving you a surplus of around 900 euros from your 2,700 euro income. So let's break this down. Again, pay attention, because hidden costs are what we get everybody into. Because if you didn't know, the projected monthly cost is not the introductory cost. The introductory cost is what it takes to get in the door. The monthly cost is what you pay after you get in. Okay. So housing, 940 euros. That's going to be rent and utilities. Cold rent is Caltimenti, 650. This is going to be our target for a good 1-bedroom apartment in a city like Leipzig. Okay. It's a very realistic number, and this is just the base rent for the space, not all the utilities. Side cost is Nevin Coasted, $200. Here's going to be the first unexpected cost that you guys are going to have to deal with. And that's why we cover these things, for these unexpected costs. The advertised rent is almost never what you're going to pay. You pay warmenti, or warm rent, which is going to include Nebenkosten, right? So These are going to be the costs for heating, water, trash, and building maintenance. They're paid along with your rent. But, and this is crucial, electricity and internet are almost always separate from all the rest of it. So your real rent is the warranty. Electricity, internet, and TV tax is going to be $90. So let's budget $50 for electricity, $40 for good internet plan. That's the $90. We're going to list the mandatory TV tax separately so that you can never forget it. Because you're going to be thinking, oh, it's not that hard to watch TV. And here's the funny part, because even if you have a T-Mobile international plan, it might cost way more money to run your cell phone in another country than what it would cost to get a local plan. Now, the big one-time cost, this is going to be what I mentioned in the beginning. When you sign a lease, you get hit with 3 big payments at once. First month's rent. I'm going to say about $850 is the warranty. The deposit, which is cushion, legally capped at 3 months of CalMeti. CalMeti is the cold rent. So think about the difference between the warm cost and the cold cost. The warm cost is with utilities. The cold cost is without utilities. And the cold cost is 3 times the rent, which is going to be $1,950. So you had to pay $850 and $1,950 to get started. You get the $1,950 back when you move out if there's no damage, but you have to have it up front when you move in. Right? Now, the unfurnished reality is going to be something that not a lot of people pay attention to when you're going to move into a new place, because when you find units that are pre-furnished or fully furnished, those units usually cost more for used furniture. Now, here's a famous German quirk. Many apartments come completely empty. So I don't mean just no furniture. I mean no kitchen, no cabinets, no sinks, oven. It's common for a tenant to install their own appliances. So I just want to step back real quick, Michael. When you asked me why no appliances, here we go. You get to a new place, there's nothing in it. Take your appliances with you. The solution here, specifically search for apartments in Benku, which is a fitted kitchen. It will save you a massive headache and some expenses. Now, groceries and household supplies, 300 euros. We're going to assume not that many spoilers here, but a solid amount for one person. German has an amazing discount supermarket like Aldi, Lidl, and Penny. Yeah, and I know a lot of us have been to Aldi's in America. They have some high quality food for incredibly low prices. Weekly trips for all your essentials will run you around 50 to 60 euros a week. Or no, 50 to 60 euros a month, because we're doing monthly expenses, not weekly expenses. This budget is going to let you eat well by cooking at home most of the time without feeling like you're skimping. Okay. Health insurance, 350 euros. This is a non-negotiable, and it's going to be very complex because health insurance is mandatory in most countries around the world. Some type of international health insurance has to be presented by expats, tourists, just in case something happens to you while you're on their territory. As a freelancer, not employed by German companies, you have a few paths that you can go about doing it. You got some public health insurances, which the system most Germans are going to use. The cost is going to be based on your income. And for freelancers, the minimum contribution is often around $400 or more until your income is formally assessed. Meaning until after they have gone through and audited your income to verify how much money you actually make. Private health insurance is going to be another one. PKVs can be a lot cheaper. When you are younger and healthier, the premiums will rise when you're older. So they're going to be lower when you're younger, but they're going to be higher when you're older. The entry point for expat insurance, you got to be careful. You start with expat insurance. They see cheaper, but this is going to be a huge warning. Many immigration offices, oh, I don't know how to say that, Auslander Ben Horde, are rejecting these for long-term residence permits because their coverage isn't comprehensive enough. So if you were going short-term, it would be fine to have an expat insurance policy. But if you're going long-term, you're going to have to find something with a lot more coverage. So they're not going to guarantee that as a solution. You're going to have to verify that the specific policy that you choose is accepted by the visa office in the city that you're going to. Budgeting around $350 or more would give you a more realistic option for a proper plan that'll be accepted. Transportation is going to be around $49, and this is going to be one of the best deals in Europe because as of 2026, the Deutschland ticket costs $49 a month. A month. It's a subscription for unlimited access to all local and regional public transportation across the entire country. Buses, trams, U-Buns, regional transit. It's an incredible value for $49 a month. Your daily commute is going to be covered wherever it is that you're trying to get to inside of the multiple routes. You can take a regional trip to explore. Long distance high speed trains like the ICE are not going to be included. Who would want to ride ICE? After what they did to us in America, we go to another country and see that and start running. Now, communication and media, $35 a month, 35 euros. Phone plans, $15. See, I told you, you might be spending $75 to $100, $200, $300 for your cell phone in America. They got a phone plan for $15. That's like the taxes on your phone bill. So it might be cheaper to just get you a local plan, right? Swap out the SIM cards, right? The mobile market is competitive. A plan with plenty of data is easy to find for €15. Now, remember that TV tax. Rundfunk Betrag, $18.35. There it is. The hidden cost that drives newcomers crazy. Every single household in Germany must pay this fee to fund public broadcasting. Doesn't matter if you own a TV or not. Once you register your address and Meldung, the bill will come. It's not optional. You have to pay for TV, even if you don't look at it. Right? Just accept that as part of your budget. That would piss me off. I would be like, you mean I'm for $20? I'm gonna be playing TV all the dang time. I'm gonna be trying to make my route passing by every TV in the neighborhood and be staring at the neighbor's TV. What you looking at? I paid for this too. Now let's talk about your social lifestyle because we're about halfway through. I want to make sure that you guys like and subscribe, mash those reaction buttons while you're here. We're burning through this information today. I'm gonna try to get it done in like 40 minutes. But this lifestyle and social life is going to be about your budget for having a fun life while you're out there trying to enjoy your life in Germany. Let's start with a gym membership because everybody's got to get their exercise on in way, shape, or form. Basic gyms like McFit are excellent and affordable. Eating out and socializing can be about €220 a month. This is enough for a couple of restaurant meals, a few beers with some friends each week, and coffees. Casual meals about €15, and beers about €4 to €5. This supports a healthy social life. Now, the grand total, if we add all that stuff up, something to the magnitude of €1,924. The golden number that we were looking for, where your savings and your investments potential would be able to thrive or flourish. So If we look at the most important numbers that we have a 2,700 euro income. We have about 1,924 euros of expenses. So our monthly surplus is going to be about 776 euros, nearly 800 euros. Not quite the 1,000 euros we thought we were going to have, right? So by choosing the high margin city and being disciplined, you're cheating a powerful financial engine. Now, you could always do away with some of the social life, which gives you the extra 1,000 or 2,000 that you would need to invest in things when you don't feel like being bothered by other people. Because a lot of Americans are antisocial, no matter how much we lie and swear that we're social butterflies. When we want external validation, we go out there and be social butterflies. But more often than not, we are social distancing, which is why we spend so much time doom scrolling on social media. This is going to be the money that you're going to be using to build your freedom with. So, you know, you got to remember that you have to pay attention to the blueprint. This blueprint does work. Now, if the details of the blueprint is giving you guys clarity, I want you to do me a favor. If you haven't done so already, is that you go to the YouTube side of things, for those of you that are watching us on TikTok, and like and subscribe over there as well, right? Because the information in the membership on the YouTube channel is going to give you guys even more in-depth understanding on a lot of the concepts that we talk about on the show. Now, you've got your financial plan, you've got your budget. None of that's going to matter if you cannot legally live and work in Germany. So, a lot of people are doing the part wrong. You show up after, you hope for the best, which is a recipe for disaster. You expect the worst, so you take whatever happens in between, which is an unexpected deportation. You thought you had it right, but you don't. You're going to need a legal strategy, and you're going to need to know Germany does not have a simple digital nomad visa. That term gets thrown around, but it doesn't legally exist in Germany, but it does exist in a lot of other countries. Digital nomad visa is something that just started out over the last year that a lot of countries are starting to do, because a lot more people are getting paid from their computer. Instead, you're going to be using an established visa path, the resident permit, for the purpose of freelance activity, which is Affenthal Serlonbenis für in oh my god, variable Flinchitatigid Kit. Jesus Christ, why make the name so long? Either way, that's going to be under section 2105 or 21 subsection 5. Remember that. That's going to be of German Residency Act. So section 21 subsection 5 of the German Residency Act. That's going to be the residency permit for the purpose of freelance activity. It sounds intimidating, especially with all those consonants, but it is more straightforward than you think. It's for people in liberal professions, which are called Freiberufler. And that's going to cover a huge range of remote workers. IT consultants, developers, designers, writers, teachers, just about everything you can think of. So how do you get it? This is going to be your game plan. The strategic entry is going to be your critical point, your ability to apply for the visa from the inside of Germany is going to depend on your citizenship. So if you are from a privileged country like the United States, Canada, or Australia, you can typically enter the country 90 days and apply for a local foreign office. Get it. For many other nationalities, you must apply for an entry visa from German's embassy in your home country before you get there. Check the specific rules for your nationality. Assuming that you can apply from within Germany, your 90-day trip is a setup phase. You will finalize your citizens, finalize the choice in your city. You're going to find temporary housing that will allow you to register your address, and then you're going to register the address, which is anmeldung. And this is the most important first step. You're going to go to the local citizenship office, which is Bergenmont, and get the papers that unlocks everything else. Open government German bank account. Your step 2 is going to be assembling your visa application dossier. Dossier. I said that wrong the first time. I said dossier. Look, now I don't speak German. So I'm experiencing something new just by covering the topic. But you're going to need to walk into Ausländer Behörde with a perfect, complete file. And what you're going to need is your application form, your passport, biometric prints, your photos, proof of health insurance, proof of policies that is accepted for the residency permits. Again, be careful with the expat plans and confirm that they are sufficient. Proof of financial stability, so your bank statements showing your $2,700 or more per month, got to have that. And revenue forecast, which is Travis Otrag Sevorshich. I am not doing good with this pronunciations. It's going to be a simple document projecting your freelance income and expenses, showing that you can support yourself, which is like a profits and losses document. Letter of intent, which is Absichte Schirk Lorangen. And this is going to be critical because you need a 2 to 3 letters from clients stating that they intend to hire you if you're going to be working from their local area. While the letters are from anywhere will help, having at least 1 or 2 German or European-based clients is a massive plus and often expected. It proves that your business has connections to the local economy. So while you can have whatever operation that you're having operating out of America, it would be more effective for you if you were able to drag it into Europe with you so that you can have a better foundation. Your professional CV and your diplomas, which is going to be proof that you qualify. You're going to need that. You're going to submit this entire packet, and if your file is in order, your plan is sound, you'll be granted residence permit, usually for 1 to 3 years within the 90-day period of time that you apply. So you're going to have your 90 days plus 1 to 3 more years. And after a few years of successful freelancing, paying taxes, and meeting other requirements like German language skills and pension contributions, then you can apply for permanent residency. It's a process, but it's way shorter than the American citizenship, the H-1B. It's way shorter, but it's the correct formal way to establish yourself into the country. Now, you optimize your cost, you have your residency permit, and now you still have around 700 to 900 euro surplus hitting your account every single month. The average person lets this money sit in a checking account where inflation eats it alive. We're not going to do that. This surplus is going to be your tool for building wealth. And we're going to deploy it in a smart global digital strategy first. The philosophy is going to be simple for the first few years. Avoid high friction local investments in the German real estate. Transaction costs are going to be very high, and it locks up your capital. So you want a liquid global digital managed portfolio. So you're going to allocate a strategy where 70% of your core is going to be your global wealth engine. So that's going to be the part that's going to be something about 500 to 600 a month that's going to go into this particular engine of global capitalism. The most effective way is through broad market UCITS ETFs. A UCITS ETF is the European regulation version of the US ETF. They're designed for European investors and have tax advantages in Germany. For example, ETFs heavily invested in stocks gets a partial tax exemption on gains. Your go-to should be a globally diversified accumulating ETF like the Vanguard FS or FTSE All World UCITS ETF, which is the ticker BWCE. I know that was a lot of information in one breath. It is a Vanguard FTSE All World UCITS ETF, which has the ticker of VWCT. VWCE. That's the ticker. Accumulating means that it's automatically reinvesting dividends, which is perfect for compounded growth. Now, you can buy these on the German digital brokers market like Scallop Capital or Trade Republic. Using a German broker simplifies taxes. Set up an automatic monthly investment plan, which is Spar plan. And every month, money goes into the ETF, no matter what the market is doing. And this is going to be called dollar cost averaging. Okay, we've talked about this on the show quite a few times. Now you're building wealth on autopilot. Here's the plus side. The yield plays and speculative slice of 30% calculated risk. This is going to be where the remaining $300 worth of capital that you have gets used. It's going to be on the unorthodox part of your investment portfolio. It's going to come with some major warnings. It's going to be a high risk portion of the portfolio. So if you're not smart about what you're doing, you are highly likely to lose your money. But if you pay attention, take your time, check your I's, dot your T's, make sure everything's going right. Dot your I's, cross your T's, and make sure everything's going right. Notice I had to second guess myself. You'll be all right. Alternative assets that you might hear about, things like peer-to-peer lending, or even legislation financing. These are things that you guys pay attention to, which would be a promising platform that has high yields, but it still comes with significant risks, because we can do peer-to-peer lending in America, but you know, when you lend money to people you don't know, you can't really guarantee that they're going to pay you back. Regulators often caution investors about these peer-to-peer lenders because people ask for money with absolutely no intent of paying it back. But when they do, they pay back very good. If you have more people that borrow and pay back than people that borrow and don't pay back, then the average between the two, you would have a surplus of capital coming in. The speculative slice is going to be your allocation for high risk and high reward bets like cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, or individual stocks that you deeply researched. In this area, the most important rule for the entire section is that the money is going to be for calculated risks only. So if the 30% of your investment surplus went to zero, it should not affect your overall financial plan. It's your space for asymmetric bets, not your retirement fund. For most people, sticking 100% to the core global ETF is going to be the safest bet and best plan to get on. The secret weapon is going to be building digital royalties. Now, this is going to be the master stroke, because while you're living affordably in Germany and your investments are growing, you can use your spare time to build a separate location independent income stream. Create and sell a digital product. I keep telling y'all to do this in America. An online course, design templates, ebooks, software tools, digital products is the ultimate leverage that you can do anywhere. You create it once and it can generate revenue 24/7. Even an extra 500 euros a month from a digital product can dramatically improve your way of life, and it would accelerate your journey, covering a huge chunk of your living cost or getting funneled straight into your investment opportunities. So this complete strategy, the core of passive global ETF, a small slice of calculated risk, and building a digital income stream, is how you go from just living in Germany to actively building a global financial empire from a low-cost European base. And I know y'all thinking like, dang, he really put this. Yes, yes, yes. This is what we do every day. Now, we built the financial and legal machines, but you do not move to a new country just to look at the spreadsheets. You're here to live, connect, and maybe even find a partner. So let's bust a few myths about finding a partner real quick, because we do got about 15 minutes. If you're expecting a traditional dating culture, you would be vastly disappointed. German women are, on the whole, independent, educated, value equality trip, which may not be what you're looking for, because if that is what we're experiencing in America and we're looking for something different, you may not enjoy that dynamic. However, if that is what you're wanting, then you're good where you're going. Now, they aren't going to be looking for a man to take care of them financially because they can do it themselves, but they are looking for an equal partnership. So it's like a roommate with benefits. This is great news for you because you're not trying to impress anybody with flashy spending, and you shouldn't be trying to impress people in your home country with flashy spending, right? Because that's not what's valued, or it shouldn't be valued. Stability, intelligence, and having your life together are supposed to be things that value. This entire show is going to be the roadmap for showing exactly that. You're financially smart, your disciplined lifestyle isn't a disadvantage in Germany or the German dating market. It's going to be a huge advantage instead of being a crutch. And it's going to show maturity and foresight. So what's going to be the strategy for building social and dating lives? Well, language is going to be the master key. You cannot say anything to somebody who doesn't understand what you're saying. So your top priority right after registering your address is enrolling in a German language class. For the language school, which is Sprachschule, is a instant social hub because you're going to meet other newcomers and you'll have a shared goal. It's the fastest way to build a friendship group. More importantly, making a real effort to speak German shows respect, which is incredibly attractive to Germans. So as bad as I've been doing today, everybody from Germany, that's right. First time looking at the vocabulary. Embrace the Varian culture. Germany runs on clubs, which is Verein. There's a club for everything: hiking club, soccer club, chess club, chores club, choir club, name it club. Not the strip club, not the bar club, not the karaoke club, but they might actually have some nightclubs out there as well. So joining a Verein for your hobbies is going to be the single best way to meet some Germans who share the same interest as you. So instead of just lying about it to make them like you, would actually go and do the things that you like to do, and they just so happen to be there doing the exact same thing. This is going to be how you get out of the expat mindset and start building a real connection. You want to choose your locations wisely. I'm going to say this again. Choose your locations wisely, because this is going to bring us back to the cities that we're talking about at the beginning of the show and the strategies in which you're going to be spending money in these cities. So while big cities have people, mid-sized cities in the sweet spot and high margin zones can be even better for dating. In a city like Leipzig or Cologne, you're more likely perceived as a novelty than in Berlin, which is flooded with foreigners. People can also be more open and less transient. Now, being a novelty can be good and bad. And one of the reasons why being a novelty can be good and bad is because the curiosity of, are the rumors true? Are Americans hung? I don't know. Find out. But are they serious about the relationship, or are they just with you so that they can say that they dated an American? Right? So you got to pay attention to that part. Now, number 4, you want to frame your lifestyle correctly, because when you go on a date, you are not a guy living cheap in Germany. You are a financially independent professional who has strategically chosen to live in Germany to build global business and a stable future. The difference in the identification of yourself is magnificent, and it's going to play a huge role on their observations of you. One sounds like a broke backpacker. The other sounds like a man with a plan. Your lifestyle isn't about a lack of resources. It's about a smart choice. And that choice is going to be a powerful and attractive framework for finding a partner, hopefully the right one. So you're not generally very open to international relationships, but they will screen for character. So don't be an asshole. They want to see you're serious. They want to see you have a plan and that you're building a life, not spiraling. And this entire blueprint is the ultimate proof of that. Everything that we've been talking about today would actually prove that. So we've covered a ton of ground. Let's boil it all down to the clear checkpoints. First, city selection and research. Your homework for this would start now. Any country you want to go to, you want to do a deep dive into that country. But for Germany, look into Leipzig and Dresden and Cologne. Go on some rental sites like Emos Scouts 24 to see real-time pricing. Watch videos about daily life. Pick your top 2 candidates. And then do deep dive research on startup costs in these countries, because that's really the difference between what they say they pay when they're there after they've gotten settled versus what they had to pay to get in the door to get settled. 2 different things. Then you want to look at your visa prep. Check the rules for the specific nationality that you're coming from. Do you need to apply from home, or can you do it in Germany? If you can do it in Germany, that kind of helps you out because you can get a lot of stuff done from there while you're doing what you're trying to do there. So start drafting your revenue forecasts and reaching out to get those letters of intent. If you are your own small business and you're trying to sell some of your products to some of the locals, that would be a way to get your letters of intent. If you're going to be doing software monitoring for 2 or 3 companies in their culture, there you go. Prioritize getting letters from German and EU clients if at all possible. Now, if you've got a fully functioning business that is not in Germany at all, where your clientele is German, but you intend on trying to get a brick and mortar location in Germany, you might not have the letters, but you may have a significant quantity of past financial history that shows that this is a stable income. It might not lead you to residency quickly, but it might still be able to grant you an extended stay without having to leave first. Step 3, execute the arrival sequence. Once in Germany, your first 2 weeks are a logistical mission. Your only goal, getting a temporary apartment that allows registration. complete your Anmeldung and open your German bank account. Do not get distracted by that. Do not, if you're like the next thing is chocolate milk, you do not want to get distracted by all the people that are talking to you right now. Step 4, you want to invest and set up the stocks that you're going to be investing in. So as soon as your German bank account is active, very next thing you're doing is open an account with a digital broker like Scalable Capital. That's a broker, Scalable Capital. Set up an automatic monthly savings plan, which is Spur Plan, for your global UCITS ETF. Automate your wealth building from day one. You don't want to wait. You want to go ahead and get in there as soon as possible. College, which is Volkshochschule. You can sign up for a German class, language class, or whatever. This is a non-negotiable. It's going to be your ticket to a real social life. At the same time, research some local clubs, which is Verein, for your hobbies and your plan to join into social interactions. These are going to be the 5 steps that you plan to turn a vague dream into a concrete project. So, after all that we went through over the last couple hours, how do you live in Germany on 3,000 US dollars? The smart way, you do it with a strategy, not with luck. You do it by rejecting the idea that you have to move to the most famous, expensive city. You choose a location as a strategic financial move, leveraging the incredible value of Germany's mid-cost and eastern cities. And I'm going to be honest with you, no matter what country I'm going to, I'm trying to find the outskirts, trying to find woods. I'm trying to find a place that has no street lights and no road. It is just dirt. And why am I trying to find that? Because if I'm looking for a traditional family value kind of person, a person that has not been spoiled by tourists, would be a person that would value the things that I say and do because they don't experience it every day. So if you want to be perceived as a refreshing new experience, not one of many, you would have to go places that most people don't go. So if you're out there several clicks into the farmland where all the girls just work in the field and help take care of their family and only go into town to buy groceries, that person is going to be less exposed to the Western culture than somebody who lives in the tourist area where passport bros can come in, sample the merchandise, go out, and that be their daily experience. So if you pack enough extra money in your budget, you'll be able to even cover the hidden costs. This particular budget would be designed from the ground up to generate massive monthly surpluses that not a lot of people pay attention to. And most importantly, you deploy the surplus with an intelligent, automated, and global investment strategy that builds real wealth while you sleep. Thriving in Germany on a modest remote income is a solvable puzzle. The pieces are all here. The right city, the right budget, the right visa, the right investment strategy, and the right social approach will get you everything that you need to be successful. Your job is to put all of that. The biggest obstacle isn't the German bureaucracy, it's inertia. Start planning before you go, right? Now that you guys have the complete financial blueprint, I highly recommend that you take a look at some of the other videos that we have on the YouTube platform where I break down some of the things, including the 5 bureaucratic mistakes that every expat makes in their first year in other countries. It's going to save you guys a world of headaches. And then the last thing I want you guys to know is I want you guys to let me know something. Actually, I want to hear from you guys. For those of you who have already been to Germany, what was the one expense that surprised you the most when you first got there? For those planning to move, what are you most concerned about? Put your answers into the comments. I read all of the comments and respond back to you guys. And if, for those of you that are watching us on TikTok, if you go and take a look at us on the YouTube channel, we have archived at least 2.5 years, 3 years worth of videos that gives you guys step-by-step walkthroughs, guides, and in-depth information on how to make yourself successful, not only in the United States, but in other countries as well. And the next detailed information on self-improvement, self-development, and financial improvement, so you can find different ways to start up a side hustle that could turn into the type of income that you can utilize with this digital nomad plan, where you can just transition it into their culture. So that's all I got for you guys for today. We're going to start by saying, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Before we wrap things up, special shout out to Steven, Michael, FX Trader, Andy, Aztec, OG Kicks, Joe Jacks. Really appreciate you guys for diving into the show. I want to tell you guys before we wrap things up that you guys really need to find a way to prioritize the things that are inside of your life, that is inside of your control, that you don't like. You want to change these things and then navigate around things that are outside of your control. And then, ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value individuals by prioritizing your 20 and 30-year goals, reverse engineering that to what you have to do today in order to accomplish those goals, and by keeping your eyes and ears open for the right suitor with the right personality, with the right characteristics, the right drive, ambition, dedication, admiration, motivation, and integrity to accomplish his goals. You can see what goals he has to see how his goals match with your goals, where if you guys have similar long-term satisfaction goals, y'all can work on accomplishing each other's goals together. I tell you guys on the show on a regular basis that 2 people can accomplish acquiring $1 million faster than one, only if you have similar financial values. So you have to pay attention to the financial values of the other person, not the financial status of the other person. Right, ladies? So that's something that you guys really have to pay attention to. So since I don't have anything else for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.